The classic slasher film franchise Halloween will conclude with Halloween Ends, which will be released in theaters on October 14th. This film is the third and final installment in the Halloween series produced by Blumhouse. In 1978, the first film in the series, titled Michael Myers, was made available to the public. David Gordon Green, the director of the upcoming Blumhouse slasher sequel Halloween Ends, has discussed 3 unexpected films that served as inspiration for his work on the project. People's anticipation of the movie has been amplified as a result of this development. Halloween Ends director reveals surprising influences for horror finale. CBR says that an interview with Green is part of the Halloween Ends story on the cover of the most recent issue of Empire magazine. During their talk about the movie, he told them about 3 surprising older movies that he watched again before making his last Michael Myers movie. My Bodyguard, 1980, Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, 1981, and Christine all came out in the same 4-year span, 1983. My Bodyguard might be the most surprising movie on this list, since it's a family drama instead of a horror movie. It's about a young boy who asks an older boy who seems tough to be his bodyguard and protect him from bullies. Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker makes more sense, since the movie is at least a slasher, but it's still a strange story about Cheryl, Susan Tyrell, who starts to feel murderous rage because of her Oedipal relationship with her orphaned nephew. The last movie, Christine, seems to fit in the best. It's the 6th movie that John Carpenter has directed since he made the first Halloween in 1978. It's based on the same named Stephen King novel about a car that kills people. This list of surprising movies that inspired Halloween Ends is a very interesting look at the upcoming horror slasher sequel. Even though it doesn't seem like the tone will be as funny as My Bodyguard, we can still learn something from each of these books. For example, Laurie's violent side could be explored, like Susan Tyrell's character, and we could follow her as she teams up with someone who pretends to be a bigger threat, like in My Bodyguard. When Halloween Ends and Peacock come out on October 14th and 15th respectively, only time will tell how important these movies are. Halloween Ends director teases how finale will be different than Kills. Director David Gordon Green says that Halloween Ends will be very different from what came before it. In an interview with Empire for the Glass Onion issue of the magazine, Green gave a small hint about how the movie will end. With the last movie in his Halloween trilogy, the horror director is going in a surprising new direction. This is surprising because the first 2 movies in the trilogy were both huge hits at the box office. Even though Green's comments suggest that Halloween Ends will be less violent, the teasers and images that have been released show a lot of the bloody killings that are typical of Michael Myers. When he says that the movie will be more intimate, he may be hinting at a final showdown between Strode and Myers that will bring the series back to the violence that made it popular in the first place. Fans who thought that Halloween Kills went too far into the supernatural by having Myers survive injuries that no normal human could survive are probably glad to hear what Green said. Since the director has said that Halloween Ends will have less chaos, it seems like people can expect a more realistic ending to the trilogy. Halloween Ends comes out next month, but it's likely that it won't be the end of the Halloween franchise as a whole. Carpenter has said that the future of the Halloween series depends on how well the next movie does at the box office. Based on how well the first 2 movies in the trilogy did, it's likely that the threequel will do well at the box office, even though this fall has been one of the worst in history. Halloween Ends theory. A copycat killer causes Michael Myers' return. The Halloween Ends trailer hints that Michael Myers could come back because of a killer who wants to be like him. In the Halloween movies, Michael Myers has always been a sign of pure evil. Halloween Ends could expand on Halloween Kills' main theme of mob violence by having more than one killer. Michael Myers kills a lot of people in Haddonfield during his killing spree and then disappears. Many of the people who died could be looking for revenge by killing Laurie Strode, who is the next best thing. In the reboot timeline, Laurie is no longer related to Michael by blood, but she is still deeply connected to him because she is so sure that he will always come back to Haddonfield. If the people of Haddonfield went after Laurie, it wouldn't be the first time they went after an innocent person thinking they were Michael. Anthony Tivoli, an escaped escaped convict, is killed when he jumps out of a Haddonfield hospital window to get away from a mob of people who thought he was Michael. The copycat might also think that if they used Laurie's connection to Michael, they could get Michael to come back to Haddonfield. Even though the series has never been supernatural in a clear way, the non-canon in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which has nothing to do with Michael Myers, the shape has always seemed like a monster, especially since we never see his face without the mask on. This is most obvious in how strong Michael seems to be. So far, he has survived being shot multiple times, being trapped in a building that was on fire, and getting beat up by a group of Haddonfield residents. He also waited patiently for 40 years in Smith's Grove Sanitarium to go after Laurie Strode again, so an attack on Laurie by a copycat killer seems like a sure way to bring him back in Halloween Ends. Is there any good ending for Halloween Ends? Halloween Ends hasn't said how the new Halloween trilogy will end, but one thing is for sure, it will be hard to find a conclusion that fans of the slasher series will like. There is one possible ending for Halloween Ends that stays true to the mood of Carpenter's original movie without being too sad and dark. Michael needs to die, but so does Laurie. Without her death, the new Halloween trilogy wouldn't have the same dark, cruel tone, and Karen's death in the second movie will seem even pointless. But if Laurie finally definitively kills Michael and dies in the process, this will finish her character arc, show that Michael could only be killed by the original final girl, and leave Allyson alive to carry on Laurie's legacy. Even though this would still be a sad ending, it would at least explain why Karen, Laurie's daughter, was killed in Halloween Kills. If the other two generations of Strode women had made it out alive, this choice would have made no sense. It's still not clear if Halloween Ends will go this route or not. Jamie Lee Curtis is the series' biggest star, and the closest thing Gordon Green's new trilogy has to the original Carpenter movie, so her performance must be the focus of Halloween Ends. But the actor is still overdue for a decent death in a franchise that has killed her off 3 times already. Time will tell if Halloween Ends can kill Laurie the way she deserves to die, which would end the new Halloween trilogy. Finally, why Universal is releasing Halloween Ends on Peacock. Universal may have decided to release Halloween Ends on Peacock because the simultaneous release model for Halloween Kills worked so well for them. The movie in 2021 made $131 million in theaters on a $20 million budget, which puts it in the black even before streaming revenue is taken into account. Because Halloween Ends was shot right after the first one, it probably has a similar budget. This means that even if it only does half as well at the box office, Universal will probably make its money back. Halloween Ends, which jumps through time, probably won't make as much money at the box office as it could have if it came out at the same time, but Universal may be more interested in getting people to sign up for its streaming service. Peacock hasn't been able to get as many subscribers as Netflix and Hulu, which have been around longer, or HBO Max and Disney Plus, which are just starting out. The fact that Halloween Ends came out in theaters and on streaming services at the same time shows that these kinds of releases aren't dead yet. Warner Brothers' plan to release all of its 2021 movies on HBO Max on the same day may have been a mistake, judging by the recent big changes to the service. However, simultaneous releases still make sense for horror movies and other titles with smaller budgets, where studios have less to lose. Universal also put out its 2022 remake of Firestarter at the same time on Peacock and in theaters. You won't see a simultaneous Peacock release for a Fast and the Furious movie anytime soon, but Halloween Ends shows that the model still works for some movies. That's it for today. Comment below if you're eagerly awaiting the new horror film as we are. Till next time, cheers.